but go get your credit. Over £3 billion of our money they're sitting on. Much of that should be back in your pocket, and this is the perfect moment of the year to do it. The UK will become the first country in Europe to build an advanced nuclear fuel facility.
Yeah, Rishi Sunak says this will help lower energy bills, put pressure on Russia, which currently dominates the European energy market. We can cross over to Westminster now and speak to the Energy Secretary, Claire Coutinho. Very good morning to you. Martin has plenty of questions for you, but I just need to get out of the way first. What's happening with nuclear power?
So this is a really important announcement. We're investing £200 million so that Britain can produce advanced nuclear fuel. And the reason that's important is the only commercial producer of this fuel at the moment is Putin and Russia. And we've obviously all just lived through a situation where we've seen how Russia has weaponized energy across Europe. So it's really important that we'll be able to counter that. And just in terms of this particular fuel, advanced nuclear fuel, this is the fuel that's going to power the next generation of nuclear reactors in this country, which will be cheaper and more efficient. So it will also help to drive down bills, as well as making sure that we can have energy security. And it's part of our expansion of nuclear power, which I set out just after Christmas, which is the largest expansion of nuclear power that we've seen for 70 years.
Secretary of State, one of your predecessors on this programme told me, when I asked them about it, the biggest single question I get about energy bills, that they would look at bringing standing charges down. Since then, standing charges has gone up. We all typically pay £330 a year just for the facility to have gas and electricity, even if we don't use it. At that level, it is a moral hazard. It disincentivises people from reducing their bills. It is effectively a poll tax on energy. When are you going to cut standing charges?
Thank you so much, Martin. And we've spoken about this before, so thank you for all your campaigning on this issue. Standing charges, I think it's really important that they are kept low or reformed where needed. And at the moment, we've encouraged Ofgem. They're doing a consultation. They've had 40,000 people respond to it, which gives you a sense, I think, of the strength of feeling that people have in this country about them. We're urging them to bring forward the results of that consultation, that call for input as quickly as possible so we can look at next steps. But I agree with you. My priority as Energy Secretary is to try and make sure that we're keeping the cost of people's energy down, that we're bringing bills down as much as possible and easing people with the cost of living.
So I know that the main blocker for bringing standing charges down for Ofgem is that certain organisations, venerable organisations like Citizens Advice, who I have huge respect for, are worried about the impact on the limited numbers of vulnerable high users. Ofgem can't support those vulnerable high users. It's outside their power. That would need government to support it. So could you commit to looking at supporting vulnerable high users, which would ease the path for Ofgem to reduce standing charges for everybody?
So as a former Minister for Disabled People, I can tell you that often those users are, for example, people with medical needs. And that's why we need to look at this very carefully. You'll appreciate, Martin, I can't just shoot from the hip here. I do want to see what the consultation says. But as I've said to you previously, and I'll say to everyone now, I think it is really important that we look at this because standing charges, when they're too high, means that people don't have an incentive to reduce their energy where they want to as well. And so just as we've taken out the premium, for example, on prepayment meters, I think it's really important that we look at standing charges and make sure that they're fair.
Now, moving on, smart meters. According to your own stats, 10% of smart meters don't work, but that simply defines those as the meters that are thick. They don't send the feedback through. According to my stats, it's over 20% of smart meters don't work. Yet you incentivise energy companies to install new smart meters rather than making sure that smart meters work. Mark got in touch with Twitter. I'm with British Gas. I have a smart meter that's never recorded my gas usage. I have reported this to them over 23 times, but received no response. I'm disabled, so I can't do the readings myself. Every bill is estimated. I'm dreading a huge bill. Isn't it time that if we're going to mandate them to have smart meters, we should be looking at how many working smart meters they have, rather than just, put more smart meters in, even though all the low-hanging fruit, they have smart meters now, and the rest of the people who don't have them, they don't really want them.
So look, on this, you're absolutely right. We can't be complacent about the smart meters that aren't working. But I should just stress that 90% are working, and actually people tend to get more billing mistakes when they don't have a smart meter. But just if I can come back to this 10%, what we've done is we've made clear with Ofgem that we want suppliers to also be looking at where meters are faulty. And we've got 9 suppliers now signed up to make sure that people are supported with their smart meters. Before, it was just 12 months. Now they'll get extra support after that 12 months where their meter's not working. So we absolutely are focused on that 10% to make sure that they can work. Frankly, I want people to have confidence in smart meters. They're part of these other reforms that I want to bring through, which will mean that people will be able to get off-peak tariffs for their energy costs, which would be able to save households up to £900. So it's really important to me that people do have confidence in them.
Secretary of State, you keep saying Ofgem, but you set Ofgem's remit. You can set what the remit for smart meter installation is. It's the government that set the fact that there would be a price cap and how it's set up. Surely some of this is you and not just Ofgem.
Well, we work very closely with them, and that's why we have made clear to them that we care about these faulty meters and we want to see action being taken on suppliers. Ultimately, they take the action, but you're right, we speak to Ofgem regularly to make clear what government's priorities are. And for me, it's making sure that people have confidence in the smart meter system, not being complacent about that 10%, and ensuring that we can also do these reforms, which means that people will get the benefit of all of the cheap, clean energy that we've brought online over the last 14 years. I mean, there's nobody who's built more offshore wind apart from China than us. And when it comes to renewables in Europe, again, we're the second highest in bringing on clean, renewable energy into our system. And I want people to feel those benefits.
Claire Coutinho, Secretary of State for Energy, we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for coming on.
How much credit have you got on your energy account? Charlotte Hawkins, checked this morning.
I just checked mine, 1,600 for you. I'm staggered by, so thank you, Martin.
Yeah, we've had some people with £2,000. If I go back to that graphic we had earlier, hopefully we've got it, the energy direct debit cycle. This is the point of the year where you should have minimum credit or no credit. So if you've got more than, say, a month's worth of direct debiting credit...
Charlotte?
Yes?
You make sure your meter reading's up to date, or unless you've got a smart meter, you make sure you've got the latest bill. You check your direct debit is roughly right, and there are online calculators to do that. Then get in touch with your energy firm, and you want to get back all credit to around half a month, 1 month more of direct debit. There's the energy direct debit cycle there. You'll see May is the lowest point in the cycle. That's why now is the perfect time to look. And if you're in credit, why are you in credit? You don't really need to be.
Yeah, Charlotte, you're not alone. Clive said he checked his account, found £1,450 credit. Di said, I'm nearly £1,000 in credit. But Di says, I know bills are going up later in the year. She doesn't want to be in debit.
Bills are likely to go down again in July and then go up a little bit, but they still be less than now. They have to look at your direct debit based on current prices, so they can't factor that in. But absolutely, if you're £1,000 in credit, and let's say your bill's £200 a month, that's 5 months' worth. You want £700-800 back. Just check the direct debit's right and everything is accurate. You have a legal right under energy firms' licence conditions to a fair direct debit and your credit back if they're sitting on it. Many of them have different ways of getting it back, some online, some call them up. But go get your credit. Over £3 billion of our money they're sitting on. Much of that should be back in your pocket. And this is the perfect moment of the year to do it.
Are standing charges going up in July?
Probably, unless the Ofgem consultation that we talked to the Minister about earlier actually kicks in and they bring those charges down. Otherwise, we'll see them go up again in July, even though overall prices are likely to come down.
Martin, terrific having you with us this morning. Go get your money back.